The restaurant was quiet that night. Soft music played in the background. Candlelight flickered on every table. Some couples smiled and laughed, some held hands. But one table was different. An old woman sat there alone. Her name was Mrs. Layla. She wore a beautiful blue dress. Her hair was neatly done. Her face had light makeup, and she wore her favorite perfume. She looked like she was waiting for someone. The waiter came over and smiled politely. "Good evening, ma'am. Would you like to order now?" Layla shook her head gently. "Not yet. I'm waiting for someone." The waiter nodded and walked away. She looked at the chair in front of her. It was empty. The table had 2 plates, 2 glasses, and a candle in the center. She checked her watch, 7 p.m. She smiled softly. He was never on time, she whispered to herself. Outside the window, cars passed by slowly. People walked hand in hand. The world moved on. But for Layla, tonight was frozen in time. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small photo. It showed a younger Layla with a kind-looking man beside her. They were laughing. Behind them was the same restaurant 20 years ago. The man in the photo was her husband, Rafiq. But Rafiq was gone now. He had died 5 years ago. Still, every year, on this same day, Layla came to this restaurant. It was their favorite place. It was where they had dinner every anniversary, even after his death. She came, she dressed up, she reserved a table for 2. She waited. "Happy anniversary, Rafiq," she whispered, looking at the photo. She put it on the table. Next to the candle dot, she picked up the menu, but her eyes were not reading it. Her mind was full of memories. Flashback, Layla and Rafiq sat at this same table many years ago. They were young and full of laughter. "This place has the best food?" Rafiq said. "No." Layla smiled. "It has the best memories." Rafiq leaned forward. "I'll love you forever. Even if I'm gone, I'll still be with you here." Layla laughed. "Don't say such things. I'm serious. You'll feel me beside you every time you come here." Back in the present, Layla smiled at the memory. She lifted her glass of water to us, she said softly. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't cry. She had cried too many times before. Tonight, she just wanted to feel close to him. The waiter returned. "Still waiting?" he asked kindly. "Yes," she said with a smile. "He's just a little late." The waiter paused for a second, then gave a small nod and left. Minutes passed. Layla looked around the room. Everyone else was busy in their own world. No one noticed the old woman sitting alone at her anniversary dinner. Suddenly, she heard a voice. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" She looked up. A young man, around 25 years old, stood there. He had kind eyes and a nervous smile. Layla blinked. Surprised. "I am sorry." The young man pointed to the empty chair. "May I sit here?" Layla looked around. All other tables were full. She nodded slowly. "Yes, of course." He sat down and looked straight at her. For a moment, he didn't say anything. Then he smiled and said softly, "Sorry I'm late." Layla stared at him. "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" The young man gave a small smile. "Not really. But maybe you will." She was confused. "Why? Did you sit here?" He looked at the photo on the table. "He looks like a good man." Layla followed his eyes. "I hope I'm not bothering you," he said, "but I felt I should be here tonight." Layla felt a strange mix of emotions. Sadness, confusion, and something else. "Curiosity. Who are you?" she asked softly. The young man didn't answer directly. Instead, he reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out a small envelope. He placed it on the table. "For you," he said. Layla looked at it. There was no name on it, just one word. Hope. She picked it up slowly. Her hands shook a little. When she looked up, the young man was already standing. "Wait," she said. He smiled. "You're not alone, Mrs. Layla. Not tonight." Then he turned and walked out of the restaurant. Layla sat frozen in her seat, the envelope still in her hand. She looked outside. The young man was gone. She opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a folded paper. She read the note. "If you are reading this, then it means someone special has kept his promise. I may not be with you, but you are never alone. There is more to this night than you know. Let your heart be open. The truth will come soon." Layla's hands trembled. She clutched the note close to her chest. The candle on the table flickered again. The seat across from her was still warm. Outside, the wind blew gently. Inside, an old woman sat no longer just in sorrow, but in wonder. Something had changed. The night was not over. The restaurant was quiet again the next evening. Mrs. Layla sat at the same table. Her hands held the letter she received the night before. Her heart beat faster with every word she remembered. Who was that young man? Why did he say those things? How did he know her name? And the most important question, how did he know her husband's handwriting? She arrived earlier than usual, hoping he might return. She didn't know his name. She didn't know anything about him, but something inside her told her he would come again. Minutes passed. She ordered tea and waited. The letter stayed in her purse, close to her. The candle on the table burned quietly. Then, just as the clock struck 7, she heard footsteps. She looked up. The same young man was there, standing beside her table. He smiled gently. "Hi," he said. "May I?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, please sit." He took the seat across from her. For a few seconds, they sat in silence. Then she spoke. "You came back. I said I would." he replied softly. You didn't really say that, she answered, a slight smile on her lips. But I hoped. He looked down at the table, then at her. I didn't mean to confuse you. I know this must be strange. She nodded. It is. You gave me a letter that seemed to be written by my husband. The young man's face turned serious. Yes, it was his handwriting. How? She asked. Her voice was full of emotion, and her hands trembled slightly. How do you know him? The young man paused. I didn't know him personally. Not really, but I know who he was. And I know what he did. Layla looked confused. What do you mean your husband? Rafiq? He helped someone many years ago. A woman. She was in trouble. She was alone and scared. He saved her life. And because of that, I'm alive today. Layla blinked. I don't understand. The young man continued. He didn't talk much about it, I think, but when he helped her, she was pregnant. That woman was my mother. Layla's eyes widened, her lips parted slightly. Your mother? He nodded. Yes, I am the child she was carrying. Without your husband's help, she might not have survived, and I wouldn't be here. Layla stared at him, her heart heavy and full. But how do you know about me, about this place, this day? The young man took a deep breath. My mother told me everything before she died. She said a man named Rafiq helped her when no one else would. She told me his name, and she told me about you. After she passed, I searched for you. I found some old letters and photos. I even found this restaurant in one of the pictures. I came here yesterday, not knowing what to expect. But when I saw you sitting alone, I knew it was you. Layla felt a tear slide down her cheek. She wiped it quickly. Why now? After all these years? Because I thought you should know. I thought maybe you needed someone to sit with you. On this day I thought maybe you needed to feel that he's still here somehow. She closed her eyes. I feel him every time I come here. But yesterday, for the first time in 5 years, I felt peace. He smiled gently. That's all I wanted. She looked at him again. His eyes had something familiar, something soft, something kind. You remind me of him, she said quietly. He looked surprised. Really? She nodded. Not your face, but your eyes, the way you speak, the calm way you sit. It's like him. He smiled. I never met him, but I always wished I had. I feel like I know him through my mother's stories, and now, through you. The waiter came and placed tea on the table. They thanked him. She took a sip, then asked, What's your name? He smiled. Ayan. She repeated the name softly. Ayan, that's a strong name. My mother chose it because it means gift of God. She said I was saved for a reason. Layla smiled for the first time that evening. You were, and maybe. So was I. Ayan looked around the restaurant. Do you always come here on this day? She nodded. Yes. Since he passed, I come here every year. I sit here, I remember. I talk to him in my heart. Ayan looked at her with deep respect. You have a beautiful heart, Mrs. Layla. She looked down, a bit shy. You can call me Layla. He smiled again. All right, Layla. For the next hour, they talked more. Layla told him about her husband, about their love. Ayan listened quietly, with interest and care. He didn't rush her, he didn't interrupt. He just listened. When it was time to leave, Ayan stood up and said, Thank you for letting me sit with you again. She stood too and held his hand. Thank you for coming back. You brought something I lost long ago. Hope he gently squeezed her hand. May I come again? She nodded. Yes, I'd like that. As he walked away, she sat down again. Her heart felt lighter. She looked at the photo on the table. You always find a way, don't you? She whispered. Then she folded the letter and placed it back in her purse. She was not alone. Not tonight. And maybe, not ever again. Layla sat near her window the next morning, holding a warm cup of tea. Sunlight touched her face gently, but her mind was far away. She kept thinking about Ayan, his words, his story, the way he looked at her. It all stayed in her heart. She had spent 5 years living in silence, holding on to memories, walking through each day with sorrow. But now, something had changed. There was a softness inside her, a warmth she had not felt in a long time. She looked across the room at an old wooden chest. It sat quietly in the corner, untouched for years. Slowly, she stood and walked over to it. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened the lid. Inside were things from the past, letters, photos, and small keepsakes. She reached in and pulled out an envelope. It was yellow with age, the corners slightly bent. Her name was written on the front in her husband's handwriting. Layla, it said. She sat down carefully and opened the letter. Her eyes scanned the page slowly. My dearest Layla, if you are reading this, it means time has passed and I am no longer by your side. But my love for you is still here. It never left. I know you. You will sit alone on our anniversary, wearing your blue dress, thinking of me. I want you to know something I never told you. One day, when I was returning from work, I saw a young woman sitting on the side of the road. She looked lost, scared, and tired. I stopped to help her. She was pregnant and had no one. I gave her food, some money, and helped her find a shelter. I checked on her for weeks. I never told you because I didn't want you to worry. But I believe she was carrying something important to life that mattered. I don't know what happened to her after that, but I have a feeling that one day, someone connected to her will come into your life. When that day comes, don't be afraid. Trust your heart. That person will bring you something you need. Maybe peace. Maybe company. Maybe a reason to smile again. I love you. Always and forever. Yours. Rafik. Tears rolled down Layla's cheeks as she held the letter close. The pieces were finally coming together. Ayan was the baby. The child her husband helped to save, and now, he had returned, not as a stranger but as a reminder of love, kindness, and life. Layla folded the letter carefully and placed it in her lap. Her heart ached, but this time, it was not just from sadness. It was from something else. Gratitude. That evening, Layla sat by the fire. The letter was still with her. She looked at the clock. It was close to 7. Her phone buzzed. A message appeared. It was from an unknown number. May I visit tomorrow? Same time? It was Ayan. She smiled and replied, yes, I'll be waiting. The next day, as the sun began to set, Layla returned to the restaurant. She wore the same blue dress. The waiter recognized her and led her to the same table. She sat down, placed the photo of her and Rafik on the table, and waited. At exactly 7 o'clock, Ayan walked in. He looked surprised to see the photo, but said nothing. He smiled and sat across from her. You came, she said softly. You said I reminded you of him, he replied. I wanted to hear more about him. Layla nodded. I found a letter from Rafik. He mentioned your mother. He knew she was pregnant. He knew someone might come to me one day. Ayan looked down, his voice low. He was right. My mother always told me that a kind man saved her. She said he was an angel in human form. When she passed, I promised her I'd find him, but I never expected to find you instead. You found both, Layla said gently, because I am him, and he is me. We were always one soul. They talked again for hours. Layla told him stories how she met Rafik, how they fell in love, how they built a small but happy life. Ayan listened like a child, hearing bedtime tales. His eyes were filled with wonder and respect. He laughed when she told funny stories and grew quiet during the sad ones. At one point, Layla paused and looked at him. You came into my life at a time when I was ready to give up. I used to pray at night, not for joy, not even for peace, just for a reason to keep going. And then, you sat across from me, and suddenly, I wasn't alone. Ayan didn't speak. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small book. My mother wrote letters too, he said. She never sent them, but she wrote to Rafik about how grateful she was, about how she wished she could meet him again. I brought them for you. Layla took the book gently, her hands trembling. Inside were pages filled with neat handwriting, soft words, and deep emotions. One line stood out. Because of you, I have a son. Because of you, I found hope. Layla closed the book and held it close. She didn't say anything for a while. Her heart was full of love, full of memories, but most of all, full of healing. The night grew quiet. People left the restaurant one by one. But Layla and Ayan stayed. They didn't rush. They didn't need to. Time had already done its work. When they finally stood up, Ayan said, Can I come again tomorrow? Layla smiled. Come, whenever. You have a seat at this table now, forever. As they walked out together, the stars sparkled above. The night was no longer dark. It was full of light. Layla looked up and whispered, Thank you, Rafik. You always knew what I needed. The next morning, Layla woke up earlier than usual. Her heart felt different. For the first time in years, she didn't feel the heavy silence that always greeted her in the morning. She looked at the small book Ayan had given her the night before. It rested on her bedside table like a quiet companion. She picked it up and read a few lines again. Her eyes filled with tears, but her lips held a small smile. She dressed simply that day, made her tea, and sat by the window again. Her mind wandered back to the past, but not in a painful way. Today the memories felt softer, lighter. She heard a knock at the door. It was gentle, almost shy. She opened it and found Ayan standing there, holding a small box in his hands. He looked nervous. I hope it's okay. I didn't want to wait until evening, he said. Layla smiled warmly and stepped aside. Of course, come in. He entered quietly and looked around the small, cozy home. It's just how I imagined it, he said. Full of warmth, she motioned for him to sit. What's in the box? He placed it on the table and opened it slowly. Inside was a small cake with white icing and a single candle. I know, it's not your anniversary today, he said, but I thought maybe we could still celebrate him. Celebrate both of you. Layla stared at the cake, her heart suddenly too full for words. It's beautiful, she whispered. He lit the candle and said softly, Maybe you can make a wish. She looked at the flickering flame and closed her eyes. After a few seconds, she blew it out. I didn't wish for anything, she said. Why not? He asked gently. Because I already have what I needed, she replied. They shared the cake in quiet peace. Then Ayan pulled something else from his bag, a small notebook, worn at the edges. I write sometimes, he said. Not good things, just thoughts. He opened to a page and began to read. There are people who leave this world, but somehow, they keep living through others, sometimes through memories, sometimes through acts of kindness, and sometimes through people they saved. Layla listened without blinking. Every word felt like a soft touch to her soul. You're not just kind, she said. You're thoughtful. That's rare. Ayan looked down, a bit shy. I didn't know what I was looking for when I came here, but now I do. She tilted her head. And what is that? He met her eyes and said softly, family? I never really had one. My mother and I, we moved a lot. She worked hard, but we were always alone. No uncles, no grandparents, no cousins, just us. And then she was gone too. Layla reached across the table and placed her hand gently over his. You're not alone anymore. He looked at her, eyes wet. Are you sure? I don't want to push myself into your life. You're not pushing, she said. You're filling a space I didn't know could ever be filled. They sat like that for a while. Two people connected not by blood, but by something deeper, kindness, love, and fate. Ayan looked around the room and spotted a shelf filled with books and old photographs. May I? He asked. Layla nodded. He walked over and picked up a photo of Layla and Rafiq standing in a garden. He looks gentle, Ayan said. He was, she replied. He used to talk to plants. Said they listen better than people. Ayan chuckled. Sounds like something I'd do. Then maybe you're more like him than you know, she said. Or maybe life brought you to me because you carry a part of him inside you. He placed the photo back carefully and returned to the table. Do you think he knows that I'm here now? She nodded slowly. Yes, I believe he does. Rafiq always said that love travels. It never stays buried. They talked for hours. She showed him old letters, more photographs, even the box of small souvenirs from trips they had taken. Ayan listened like each item was a treasure. Every object told a story, and every story made him feel closer to the man he never met. As the afternoon turned to evening, Layla stood and went to her bedroom. She returned with a small wrapped package. I want you to have this, she said. Ayan looked surprised. What is it? Open it, she smiled. He unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a wristwatch, simple, silver, old. It was Rafiq's, she said. He wore it every day, even on our last anniversary together. I want you to have it. Ayan stared at it, speechless. I can't. It's too much. It's not, she said firmly. It belongs to someone who carries his spirit. It belongs to you now. Slowly he put it on his wrist. It fit perfectly. Thank you, he whispered. Ayan didn't sleep that night. He sat beside Mina, watching her breathe, listening to her soft hum that still echoed the music box's tune. Her lips had moved. She had said his name. It felt like a dream. He held her small hand and whispered again and again. You're back, Mina. You're really back. In the morning, sunlight filled their new home. Ayan gently woke Mina. She blinked, looked at him, and gave a faint smile. It wasn't full, but it was real. Ayan wanted to jump with joy, but he stayed calm, brushing her hair gently. Would you like to come with me today? He asked. Mina nodded slowly. He dressed her carefully and gave her the music box to hold. Then they stepped out together, hand in hand, for the first time without fear. Sarah was already waiting outside. When she saw Mina standing holding Ayan's hand, she gasped. She's walking. Ayan nodded proudly, and she said my name. Sarah knelt and smiled at Mina. You're a strong girl, Mina. Welcome back. Mina looked at Sarah and gave the smallest nod. Sarah held back her tears. They reached the toy stand, which was now more like a small street shop. Ayan had a new table, colorful cloth on top, and boxes of donated toys beside him. People were waiting already. Many had read the latest update. Sarah posted. Some came just to meet Ayan. Some brought toys. Others brought money, food, and small gifts for Mina. One old woman gave Mina a hand-knitted scarf. Mina took it gently and nodded. Her eyes were softer now. She was slowly returning to the world. Ayan stood behind the table, talking to people with a new kind of energy. This toy is for 3 to 5 years, he said, and this one plays sound when you press here. His voice was clearer, more confident. He wasn't just selling toys anymore. He was running something special, something full of love. Later that day, a group of kids came by. They had saved pocket money to buy toys for Ayan, not because they needed toys, but because they wanted to meet the boy who gave his heart to his sister. A small boy gave Ayan a letter. It said, when I grow up, I want to be kind like you. Ayan read the letter 3 times, folded it carefully, and kept it in his pocket. Mina watched all this from a small chair Sarah had brought. She didn't speak, but her eyes followed Ayan wherever he went. At one point, she smiled when a little girl hugged her after buying a doll. Ayan saw that smile and almost cried again. Noon, a reporter came. Sarah had agreed to one small interview, only if Mina wasn't pushed or asked to speak. The reporter, a kind young woman named Farah, spoke gently. She asked Ayan simple questions. Why did you start selling toys? Ayan looked at Mina and said, because she stopped smiling, and I thought maybe, if I helped others smile, she might remember how. Farah nodded, writing every word. And now? Ayan smiled. Now she's starting to remember, one toy at a time. The interview was short, but it was honest, pure, and powerful. That evening, the story aired on local TV. It spread fast. People shared clips of Ayan saying, if someone smiles, maybe Mina will too. Donations increased. Local businesses offered support. A school principal called Sarah the next morning and said, we want Ayan and Mina to join us. Full scholarship, uniforms, books, Everything. Sarah shared the news with Ion. His eyes lit up. School? He asked again. Yes. You both deserve to learn. You've taught the world more than most adults ever do. Ion held Mina's hand. Would you like to go to school, Minu? She looked at him, then down at the scarf, then slowly nodded. The next few days moved fast. Mr. Haris helped get their documents ready. The principal came to meet them personally. Ion and Mina were taken to the school for a small tour. The classroom walls were colorful. The books were new. Ion touched a pencil and smiled. It's been so long, he said. Mina stayed close to him, but she walked without fear. The teachers welcomed them warmly. One even brought a small painting kit for Mina, saying, "Sometimes colors help when words don't." Mina took the kit and held it close. By the end of the week, Ion was back at the toy stand for one last day before school began. He made a small sign. "Thank you for helping me help others." People took photos, gave hugs, and left kind notes. Ion told everyone that the stand would continue, but with new hands. He had trained 2 older street boys to run it. "They need it more now?" he said. "I have a new journey." Mina stood beside him when he said this. A girl from a local newspaper asked, "Will you miss selling toys?" Ion looked around at the faces. The street, the box. "No," he said. "Softly, I'll miss what it gave me hope." That night, before sleeping, Mina did something she hadn't done in a year. She opened a notebook and drew a small drawing. A boy and a girl, holding hands, standing in front of a table full of toys. Above them, a sun with a smile. Ion looked at it, speechless. "Did you draw this?" Mina nodded. "That's us," she whispered. 2 words. Ion hugged her tight. "Yes, that's us." The first day of school arrived. Ion woke up early, wearing his new uniform. It felt strange, clean ironed, the shirt white like clouds, the pants stiff but neat. He turned to see Mina sitting on her bed, already dressed in her own small uniform, holding her drawing book tightly. She had drawn another picture that morning, a school with 2 small children standing in front of it. Above the building, she had drawn a smiling sun again. Ion kissed her forehead. "Ready?" Mina nodded with a small smile. They walked outside where Sarah's car waited. She had come early to take them both. "You two look amazing," she said with a big smile. Mina gave a shy wave. It was her new way of saying, "Thank you." The drive to school was quiet but full of excitement. Mina kept looking out the window, watching trees, shops, and people pass by. Ion kept glancing at her, amazed at how far they had come. At the school gate, the principal greeted them personally. "Ion, Mina, welcome to your new home of learning," he said kindly. Other children walked by, some staring, some smiling. A few had seen Ion on the news. One boy whispered to another, "That's the toy boy." Ion heard it, but didn't mind. He knew who he was now. The principal showed Mina her special classroom first. It was smaller, quieter, with soft toys, colors, and a calm teacher named Miss Fariha, who knelt beside Mina and said, "This is your safe place. No one will rush you here." Mina looked around, then walked in slowly, holding her drawing book. Ion stood at the door, worried, but Mina turned back and nodded. "Go," she whispered. "I'm okay." Ion almost cried. Again, he walked to his own classroom where students were already sitting. The teacher welcomed him. "Everyone, this is Ion. He's joining us today. Please help him feel at home." Ion sat near the window and opened his new notebook. The paper felt smooth. The pen was light. He wrote his name slowly, Ion Khan. He underlined it twice. For the first time in his life, he felt like he belonged. After school, Sarah picked them up. Mina ran to her with small, fast steps. "I painted," she said, showing a picture of flowers. Sarah hugged her. "That's beautiful." Ion shared that he had learned long division and also made a new friend named Rafi. "He sits next to me. He gave me an extra pen when mine broke." Sarah listened to both, proud like a mother. When they returned home, Mr. Haris was waiting. He brought books, a study table, and 2 school bags. "Thought these might help," he said. Ion hugged him tightly. Mina gave him her painting of flowers. "This is for you." Mr. Haris took it like it was gold. "Thank you, princess." That night, as they sat together, Ion asked, "Why do people still bring us gifts?" Sarah smiled. "Because your story touched their hearts. And people don't forget the feeling of love." Ion thought for a moment, then said, "Then maybe we should give too." "What do you mean?" Mr. Harris asked. "I want to start something," Ion said. "Something that gives toys and books to other kids like us, on the streets, in shelters, or those who lost their parents." Sarah and Mr. Haris looked at each other, surprised and proud. The next day, Ion drew a plan. With Sarah's help, they created a name, Toy of Hope. It would be a small project at first, where people could donate used toys and books, and Ion would deliver them to poor kids. He started by visiting the old street where he once sold toys. He met the 2 older boys he had trained and gave them more supplies. "These are from Toy of Hope," he said. "Keep selling. Keep smiling." He also gave toys to a girl living in a tent nearby. She hugged him tightly and said, "I never had a doll before." Ion smiled and patted her head. Word spread. Again, schools started collecting old toys. Parents reached out to Sarah, asking how they could help. A small shop even offered a space to store donations. Ayan went every weekend with Mina, packing toys and labeling boxes. Mina didn't speak much, but she painted small stars on every box. She called them Hope Stars. One Saturday, a large event was held in the school hall. Toy of Hope had its first official charity day. Children from across the city came. Some brought toys, some came to receive them. Ayan stood on stage, nervous. The principal introduced him. This young man gave the world more than anyone expected, and now, he wants to give more. Ayan stepped forward, holding the microphone. I sold toys to help my sister smile again, he began, but I saw something else. Kids smiling when they got even a small toy. I want to give that smile to every child who feels alone. The crowd clapped. Some wiped tears. Mina stood at the front, holding her newest painting. 2 children, surrounded by toys, holding hands under a shining star. She lifted it proudly. Ayan saw it and smiled wide. The house felt different now, no longer silent or still. It was filled with footsteps, laughter, and the gentle sounds of a family rebuilding itself. Each day began with the smell of breakfast, little Noor running through the hallway, and Layla's soft voice humming old songs in the kitchen. Ayan and Samir shared chores, taking turns with cooking, fixing things around the house, and tending the garden. For the first time in a long time, every corner of the home felt alive. Layla would often pause in the middle of her day just to listen to the laughter, to Noor's questions, or to the boys arguing playfully about whose turn it was to do the dishes. These small things, these moments she once lived without, now felt like treasure. One day, while sorting through some old papers in the attic, Layla came across a sealed envelope. It was tucked deep inside one of Rafiq's books, almost as if it had been hidden. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it. Inside was a letter written in Rafiq's handwriting. My dearest Layla, it began. If you ever find this, it means time has moved forward without me, but I never wanted you to stay stuck in the past. You gave me a life filled with love. You gave me your heart, your laughter, your time. And if there is a world after this one, I promise I'm watching over you. I hope you find someone to share your days with. Maybe someone who needs you as much as you need them. Love doesn't end with loss. It changes shape. It grows in unexpected ways. You will love again, not the same, but just as deeply. And when that time comes, I hope you open your heart. I'll be smiling when you do. Tears rolled down Layla's cheeks as she folded the letter and held it close to her heart. She walked down the stairs and found Ayan sitting on the floor with Noor, showing her how to tie her shoelaces. Samir was in the kitchen, humming and stirring a pot of tea. She watched them for a moment, then whispered, I opened my heart, Rafiq, just like you said. That evening, she called the boys and Noor into the living room. I have something to share, she said, holding the letter in her hand. She read it aloud, her voice steady but soft. When she finished, the room fell silent. Ayan spoke first. He really loved you. You can feel it in every word. Samir nodded. And he wanted you to keep living, even after he was gone. Layla looked at both of them. That's what I'm doing now. Living with all of you. Days turned into weeks. The family settled into a rhythm. Noor started going to a nearby school, and every afternoon she would run home with stories to tell. Her drawings began to fill the fridge. Ayan took up writing again, often reading his poems aloud during dinner. Samir began a small business, fixing furniture, and soon neighbors started dropping by for help. Layla, too, found purpose again. She started teaching children from the neighborhood how to read and write, just a few hours a week. Her once quiet house became a place of learning, laughter, and love. One Saturday afternoon, while sitting in the garden, Ayan looked at Layla and said, I've been offered a job in the city, a really good one, but it would mean traveling 3 days a week. Layla smiled gently. That's wonderful, Ayan, you should go. He looked torn. But what about you, Noor? Samir? She reached out and took his hand. We will be here when you return. You don't have to be here every day to be part of this family. You've already built your place in our hearts. Ayan nodded slowly. I just don't want to lose this. Any of it. You won't, she said firmly. Because this isn't temporary. This is forever. Ayan took the job. Each time he returned, he brought something new, a book for Noor, a story for Layla, a tool for Samir. And each time, the house welcomed him like he never left. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned orange and pink, the whole family sat in the garden. Layla looked around, soaking in the moment. Noor sat on her lap, sleepy but smiling. Ayan was reading something aloud, while Samir prepared tea nearby. This, she thought, is the life Rafiq wanted for me. A life not built on mourning, but on hope. Not stuck in the past, but blooming in the present. She had learned to love again, not just one person, but many. Her heart had expanded in ways she never thought possible. Later that night, as she tucked Noor into bed, the little girl looked up at her and asked, Nani, are you happy? Layla kissed her forehead and whispered, Yes, my sweet child. I'm very, very happy. She walked back to her room and stood by the window. The stars were out, just like the night she met Ayan. She opened her journal and wrote, Grief is not a wall, it's a door. And today, I stepped through it. I found laughter and sorrow, family and strangers, and love in places I had forgotten to look. I am not alone anymore. I never was. As she closed the journal and turned off the light, the house didn't feel like just a building anymore. It felt like a heartbeat, a rhythm, a song of life continuing, stronger and fuller than before. And somewhere, in the quiet of the night, it felt like Rafik was smiling too. Morning sunlight poured into the house like a gentle embrace. The smell of parathas drifted from the kitchen as Layla stirred her tea. Noor was already awake, sitting at the table and coloring with quiet focus. It was a simple moment, but to Layla, it felt magical. She looked around the room, full of signs of life: scattered shoes, half-read books, the little flowers Noor picked yesterday, still fresh in a glass. This house had once been silent, but now it was alive with meaning. Ayan came downstairs with sleepy eyes and messy hair. "Smells like heaven," he mumbled, grabbing a seat. Samir followed behind, pouring himself a cup of tea. "Noor says she's drawing our family," he said with a soft smile. Noor proudly held up her picture. Stick figures stood side by side, a tall man, a smaller man, a lady with gray hair, and a little girl in the middle. Above them, she'd written, "My home." Layla's heart tightened. "It's beautiful," she whispered, pulling Noor close and kissing her head. That day they decided to go to the beach. Noor had never seen the ocean. Ayan packed snacks, Samir arranged the car, and Layla filled a basket with fruit and juice. They sang songs on the way there, wind blowing through the windows, laughter mixing with the sound of the road. When they reached the beach, Noor ran straight to the water, giggling as the waves touched her feet. Layla sat under an umbrella, her hands resting calmly on her lap. She watched her family play, her eyes shining with quiet joy. Ayan joined her, after a while, sitting beside her on the sand. "You okay, Nani?" he asked. She nodded. "I'm better than I've ever been. I've been thinking," he said, scooping sand with his fingers, "about writing a book, about us, about you." She turned to him, surprised. "Me?" "Yes," he said. "Everything you've lived through, everything we've built here. People need to hear stories like this about grief, love, second chances." She looked toward the waves. "Only if you write it with truth. Not just the beautiful parts, but the painful ones too. That's the only way it'll matter," he said. Layla smiled. "Then I'd be proud." In the evening, they sat around a small bonfire on the beach. Samir played soft music on his phone, Noor collected seashells, and Layla told them stories about Rafik, the way he laughed, how he once got lost in a market and came back with 10 mangoes instead of bread. They laughed until tears came, and in those moments, the past and present blended perfectly. Back at home that night, Layla found herself unable to sleep. She walked to her window and looked at the moon, just like she used to when Rafik was alive. But instead of sadness, she felt warmth. She whispered, "We made it, Rafik. I kept going, just like you wanted." Days passed. The house kept its rhythm: morning tea, school runs, garden chores, laughter at dinner. But one morning Layla woke up with pain in her chest. It wasn't sharp, but deep and slow, like something old had come loose. She didn't tell anyone right away. She smiled, helped Noor get ready for school, and drank her tea as usual. But that night, after everyone was asleep, she quietly reached for her medicine and sat on her bed, breathing slowly. The next day, Ayan noticed something was off. "You're quieter," he said. "I'm just tired," she replied. But he wasn't convinced. He made her promise to visit the doctor. Layla nodded. She knew the time had come to face things. After her checkup, the doctor gently explained what she feared. Her heart was getting weaker. Age and years of silent grief had taken their toll. "How long do I have?" she asked calmly. "Maybe months, maybe less. It's hard to say," the doctor said, "but you should be surrounded by those you love." Layla walked out into the sunlight, strangely at peace. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She just thought of her family, her boys, her Noor, the laughter, the life they created. That evening, she called everyone to the living room. Her voice was calm, strong. "There's something I need to tell you." She explained everything: her condition, the truth the doctor had given her. Noor didn't fully understand, but she hugged Layla tightly. Samir sat silently, his hands folded tightly. Ayan looked down, tears slipping from his eyes. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" he asked. "Because I didn't want fear to fill our days," she replied. "I wanted joy, not worry." Ayan held her hand. "We'll make every moment count," and they did. Over the following weeks, they took pictures together, recorded stories, cooked favorite meals, and even threw a small celebration in the garden. Layla wore her best shawl, Noor wore flowers in her hair, and the boys raised a toast to love, to family, and to the journey that brought them here.